Welcome back, brothers and sisters, to the Church of Doom, the gathering place on this God's forsaken internet for people who are into RPGs, into miniature wargaming, skirmish wargaming, kitbashing, world building, all of those sorts of things. I am Landon Father Doom Gus, and I am your prophet. I'm spreading the good word of how to enjoy these hobbies in a way that is not competitive or salty or really has any sort of massive big goals. It's just about honestly having fun. Because one of my goals this year was to hobby for at least 20 minutes a day, which I am almost off of paternity leave, which means those 20 minutes will become quite a bit harder to find. But so far, I've been doing pretty good with it. Speaking of which, let's jump into our sermon, right? Because we're gathered here today to do I've got it down, our 3 segments, 3 Eyes of Vecna. Maybe one day on one of these, I'll do a deep dive into the lore of my campaign setting. And for anybody who's like, why does he keep saying 3 Eyes of Vecna? That doesn't make any sense. I thought it was about the 1 Eye of Vecna. I'll make it make sense for you in a future sermon. But for now, we're going to do some hobby updates, including my painting practice. Another one of my goals for the year was to paint at least 100 minis. And I've really thrown myself into that and have forced myself to sit down and start practicing. And so I've got a couple minis I'll show off that I think look really good. Once we're done with hobby updates, we're going to do the main sermon segment today, which is my Forbidden Psalms kill team Warband. I'm going to be showing off these kit bashes that I've done, also talking through the lore of this Warband, and I'm going to be explaining like how I actually went about brainstorming and coming up with the lore for this Warband, because that is really what like fueled the kit bash. The two sort of work together. But anyways, we'll get to that. And then finally, we're going to end today's sermon with a 1d12 list of Tzeentch-themed magic item ideas to use in your RPGs or maybe in your own games of Forbidden Psalms or whatever you're playing, Workborg, anything like that. And if you don't know who or what Tzeentch is, I'll explain it as best I can when we get there. But thank you all for attending today. And brothers and sisters, let us pray. Hobby updates. Main one is I finally finished organizing and cleaning up my basement lair, my workshop. You can't really see, well, actually you can see a decent amount of like some of the organizing I've done on my shelves. I've already shared a couple of the tips and things that I've just sort of discovered along the way with you all, including these like smaller little extender shelves that I got off Amazon. You can get like a pack of 3. Was it 3 or 4? Actually, I think it was a pack of 4 for like $28, something like that. And let me see if there's one that I can easily, oh, no, that's actually not one of them. That's a different one. Where's one? I can't really easily show one off because it's got a bunch of stuff on them. But it's not like one solid shelf. It's like one shelf and then kind of an L-shaped shelf that can extend off of the other one, which makes it super helpful to like give each of these big shelves that are meant to hold like cans of paint and cleaner and like house stuff. It makes them a lot better at holding lots of tiny little miniatures, which is what I need them for, and paints and random supplies like that. I also already gave you the tip of using like these cooking heating trays as this little storage bins for your bits and crafting material. And why I like them, and honestly, kind of part of this tip also is I have put as much of my stuff as I can in clear, shallow tins. Like this is just like a bunch of random beads that I can use for kit bashing. These are also like little stickers and things I could use. I have like, here's just like a random little tray that has like some of like skulls and little plastic odd bits that I'll use for terrain building. Even like my hot glue gun, I put in like a really low sitting piece of just like a random cardboard box. I've just been holding on to a bunch of cardboard to do all this sort of stuff too. Why I like that and why I did it that way is because if I can't see it, I forget it exists. And I'm sure that for other people, it's like if you had everything out where you could see it, it would be way overwhelming. But for me, I need it that way. Otherwise, I just forget I have it. Like, for example, in that terrain kit I had, or like my terrain bits kit, I have all these straws, which are going to be really cool to use to build terrain because they can be like industrial pipes. Like if you get like that little ribbing right there is really cool to make it look like some sort of weird big pipe that in my setting is going to be pumping like, not really oil because I don't have an industrial setting like in 40K, but it is inspired by 40K. It's pumping like ectoplasm, or I might call it like ectoplasma, like because in my setting the gods are powered by phylacteries, and phylacteries like gather souls that the gods can then use to power their own schemes or whatever. But the souls need to be moved. They're not, and I don't want it to just be the ethereal plane. I want it to be more like literal. So I thought, what if the world had just, millions of miles, maybe not millions, hundreds of thousands of miles of giant pipes with sludgy soul ectoplasma being pumped through it. Random little bit of lore for my world. But anyways, having these pieces, having like just seeing those straws in this tin reminds me, oh yeah, I have that, and I want to build that terrain piece. If it's before, it was like in just the bottom of a box over under my stairs with all the other cardboard random things. I'm like, oh, I never even thought of it. And also like my paints, you can't really see it, but like I guess you sort of can, right down here, like this low shelf, the closest one to me, has all of my paints. It has like some craft paints at the back, has like some texture pastes and stuff here, some brushes, and then just all my Citadel paints are right here, so that it's like one of the first things I see when I sit down to get to work is my paints, and they're within easy reach. Before, I had like a little red kind of like rolling tool cart thing that went under my desk, and it was really close to me, but all the paints were in the drawers under the table, and I never saw them, and I think that was part of why I just never really painted, because it was just never on my mind. So that's like the biggest thing of this reorganizing, is getting everything in clear or shallow totes so I can always see it, and it'll just keep me motivated to be working on things rather than kind of like forgetting I have this stuff or needing to go look for it. So that feels great. That's a big update for me. Finished my workshop lair organization. Before I show off the minis, I've got a couple other updates. I finished The Port of Peril. Talked about it a little bit last week already. My goal is to read 24 books this year, and that can be like a novel like this, or it could be a cool like rule book if there's a lot of lore and stuff in it. But this is how I started the year. The quick summary now that I'm done with it, and I already said it last week, but it's about Grandin, the king of Venus, whose queen is captured by pirates, and he goes on this big adventure to go rescue her. It was published in the 1930s, so it's very much it's not really a damsel in distress story, because the queen, Verenia, I'm so bad with names. I was thinking, actually, my next book I read, I need to like write the name and a description of the character in the front of the book, so that I can, before I even start reading, I'll always just reference it, because I just forget the names. If Grandin's name wasn't on the cover right here, I would have forgotten his name for sure. But anyways, she is like not a damsel in distress. She does faint a few times, but it's like when a giant monster is about to eat her. Like there's like this big, like it's actually this scene, this part in the book, they're like up in the Arctic, and she's about to be eaten by this weird centipede monster thing, and she faints. But most of the time, she's like sassing the pirates who kidnapped her and making them feel really like emasculated. And I'm like, hell yeah, girl. Like, at least she's sort of, and she's like always trying to like grab knives to either like kill someone or kill herself to like avoid her fate. I'm like, at least you're not just sitting around doing nothing. So you can kind of get past that, then it's fine. Anyways, King Grandin goes on an adventure to save her. And I won't bore you with like a full shot for shot recounting of it, but the high points are, the pirates get the queen and sail off into the ocean to go to their secret lair. Grandin and his loyal gunner, literally like the guy who operates like the guns in this world. I think there's some that are like normal bullets, but others are described as having like needle shots, like the Needler from Halo, which is kind of cool. The two of them go off to save her, and they go on this like crazy adventure that takes them from place to place to place to place. The first one is this island of frog folk, where one of the pirates actually ends up stealing the queen for himself. You're kind of like, what is this guy doing? Why is he stealing the queen? He says he's trying to save her, but is that true? Is he like actually just going to take her for himself? He takes her to this frog folk island, where then the queen and him get captured by the frog folk. And then Grandin shows up on the island and fights the frog folk, and he sicks a giant snake that the frog folk worship as a god on them so that he can flee. But before they can get off the island, the pirate crew shows up and are like, okay, we thought you might be here. We don't know who this Grandin guy is, but you're all coming with us. So they get their pirate defector, the queen and the king, and the gunner. Then they go to their hidden island base. It's kind of really weird. Like, the book makes a big deal of like, no one knows where these pirates are. But then I'm very confused on like where exactly they even are. I'm like, do they have a kingdom, or is it just like this random little island that they live on? They talk about like this secret stone gate that they have to open and sail through to get into it. And I'm like, where are they? I'm so confused. But anyways, they end up going to their home, and that's where King Grandin and his gunner end up leaping off the side of the boat that they're being held prisoner on, because the queen had already been taken up into the like pirate king's fortress or whatever. And while they're under the docks, they also escaped with the defector pirate, who at this point you learn is actually a member of this like secret society within the pirate culture that like wants to have like basically like do an insurrection. Like they're like, this pirate king guy is like bad news. We're sick of being pirates. Everybody hates us in the world. They like gun us down if they can find us. We want to see some change. And Grandin's like, hey, if you help me get my queen back, like I can make that happen for you. Like, let's do it. I can definitely essentially like pardon you of what your people have done. So they join the secret group that then manages to get Grandin up into the Pirate King's castle, where he, unbeknownst to Grandin, the Pirate King is captured the queen to sell her to some kind of mysterious dude that you find out at the end of the book who it is. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of a lame reveal. But this Arctic barbarian chieftain dude ends up coming to the city at this same time to buy a different princess who the pirates had kidnapped. And he'd brought like this herd of weird 3-horned horses to like sell to the Pirate King. They're really cool. And when he's there, he sees the queen. He's like, hey, actually, I kind of want her too. And the guy's like, nope. Like the other guy who actually wants her has offered me way more than you could ever hope to afford for it. So get out of here, go take your princess and leave. At that point, that's when Grandin shows up. He decapitates the king of the pirates pretty easily. That's one thing about the book I didn't love, is he like, the fights are a little lame, but it was written in the 1930s. But he decapitates the pirate king. And then as that's happening, he's having this fight. The Arctic chieftain takes his queen and like jumps down the side of the castle and is escaping. While at the same time, the gunner, Grandin's gunner, grabbed the wrong person. Right before they burst into the room, they didn't know that the barbarian chieftain was going to be there. They also didn't know there was going to be this other princess character. They just thought the queen was going to be there. So Grandin tells the gunner, like, get her and run. Don't look back. That's an order. Get out of here. There's a ship waiting for us with some of these defector pirates. Get to them. So it's actually really clever and really funny what happens. The gunner grabs the wrong person. He grabs the princess, throws her over his shoulder, and I think I don't know exactly how he didn't recognize her. I don't remember if they were wearing like shawls or something, but he ends up running all the way down to this boat and tells her like, don't make a sound, like, or we'll get caught. And so this princess, like, sure thing, stays totally silent, and he doesn't realize his mistake until they're out to sea in the boat. While that's all happening, Grandin jumps down the castle, gets onto one of these horses, and chases these Arctic barbarians like north up into the Arctic, where he has a fight with this thing after they kind of sneak out of the barbarians' camp, because he also kills the barbarian chieftain in a one-on-one duel really, really quickly. But then as they're doing this, they've killed the barbarian chieftain, they've escaped, they fought this thing. As they leave, a different group of pirates, I guess, who just patrol this area for some reason, catch them and bring them back to the city where Grandin's about to be beheaded. And it's like, all hope is lost. That's at least what Grandin and the queen think. But we know something that's also been happening. I know I said I wasn't going to give you a full shot-for-shot remake. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. I just wanted to tell you everything because there is some interesting stuff in there that makes sense with the main point I'm going to make about what I kind of took away from this book. So bear with me another minute. When the gunner goes out to sea and he's saved the wrong person, while they're out there, they actually end up running into like an imperial navy. Not the navy of Grandin, not his kingdom, but one of his allies. They run into some of their ships, and they have a few like flying ships. And the gunner tells him his whole story. He's like, look, we saved the princess. We need to go rescue Grandin. And hey, I know how to find the pirate's secret like empire or whatever. We can go topple them. And so there ends up being, just as Grandin is about to be decapitated, the gunner leaps through a window off of this like sky ship, this flying airship, to save him. And then like a bunch of these navies and pirate defectors launch a siege of the city, overthrow it, claim it for themselves. And then the book ends with Grandin and the queen going home. And okay. Before I tell you the things that I liked, the one thing that I like hated, the one part of this book where I'm like, this is so stupid, is the gunner basically falls in love at first sight with this princess lady, and they have like 2 interactions on this boat, And then right before they're about to be captured, what they think they're about to be captured again by these ships they see before they realize, oh, it's the Imperial Navy. He's like, I have to tell you, I love you. I loved you since the moment I saw you. I'm like, what the fuck? You just met her. This is so dumb. And so the book ends with Grandin and the Queen going to their wedding. This gunner and this princess lady are going to be wed. It's so, like, it's just cheesy and dumb. And she was already supposed to marry this other guy. And Grandin, like, helps talk her father, this king of a different kingdom or whatever, into, like, no, it's fine. Like, she should marry my gunner. It's better for everybody. It was just stupid. It was just dumb. But with that summary out of the way, what I really liked about this book at the end was it did a great job of having all the different factions be, like, interwoven, always interacting with each other in some way, which, as I was thinking about my own D&D campaigns, I've told it, I have a habit of introducing cool factions, but they don't interact a lot. They're sort of just, like, always off doing their own thing. And that can kind of happen with a lot of things in D&D world, not just factions. Like, everything's sort of isolated, Troughed? What? There's a term for this, like, not Trello, Troughed? Siloed, that's what it is. Everything's sort of siloed. But in this book, there's these pirates who are capturing people and selling them off into slavery or whatever. And you learn that these toad folk on this island, the pirates will sometimes stop at that island for water and to rest. Well, the toad folk will capture some of these pirates and to keep them as slaves. So when the Queen and Grandin are up in this toad folk village, they see, like, pirates being forced to work as blacksmiths and things like that, or they're being used as sacrifices. It's not just random sailors that the frog folk are capturing. It's these pirates. And then in the pirate city, you learn that there are these pirate defectors and the normal pirates. And the pirate defectors don't end up working just with Grandin and the gunner, but they also end up working with this Imperial Navy that shows up. And there's, like, this alliance between those two factions. And then these Arctic barbarians show up, and they like, clearly have business relations with the pirates, but they also are kind of enemies. Like, the barbarian chieftain dude steals the Queen. He tries to buy her, and the guy's like, no way. Then he just steals her. So they, like, have relations, but they also are willing to stab each other in the back. And all of these factions are doing things and interacting in really interesting ways throughout the story. And that was just really cool. It has me thinking, like, how can I get my D&D factions to have more things keeping them together? They can't all just be, like, secret organizations and secret societies that have no interactions with each other, and they almost pretend like they don't know anybody else exists, right? It's a lot more interesting, and I think it makes the world feel a lot more immersive if it's more this way. So lots of things in this book that I didn't really enjoy, like the eye-rolling romance parts, the kind of boring combats. Like, a lot of the writing is sort of presented as, like, this character thinks about doing this, and then they do it, and they do it really well, really quickly, especially when it comes to Grandin the King. It's like, he's going to break out of his shackles, he's going to pick the lock, and he does it. I'm like, the way they describe it is just super boring. But overall, cool things out of this, so I enjoyed that. So that's another big update. Sorry that one took a while to get through. I'll try and get better about summarizing books in the future, but finished organizing my workshop, finished The Port of Peril, got some cool lessons out of it, started my next book, Vermis, or Vermis 1, because there is Vermis 2 out. And this one, I'm only, like, one chapter in. They don't technically have chapters, and if you don't know what Vermis is, it is written as, like, the official guide, and it's written like almost like an old video game. If you guys are old enough, you'll remember you could buy, like, guides to games, and it was like a paperback book, like a big, some of them were really big, and it had, like, all the secrets of the games, and it had maps, and, like, you guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. This is written like that for a game that doesn't exist. Vermis isn't real, but it has a guide to the setting, which is really, really cool. And, like, one of the things I liked a lot, just in this first section, is it presents these, like, archetype characters for the setting that you, like, it's almost like, pick your class. What character are you going to be in this game? And there's, like, one of my favorites is the Wandering Angel, this guy right here, and it's this order of knights who are they're all on a pilgrimage to this mountain, and when they reach the top of it, they, like, pull a string, and this metal halo that's hanging over their head falls and decapitates them, and their head goes down the cliff. It's, like, so dark and cool. But they also have, like, for every character class that they present in this first section, they have, like, a little almost like a stat page for it but it's not actual stats. I mean, they do show like strength, intelligence, faith, will, but then it shows like what are like the items they might have, and it has a little bit of lore about them right here. And so one of the notes that I took away as I was reading that section is, having some archetype characters for your setting that you could show your players would be really, really cool and really help, like, I think sell the tone, rather than just saying like, hey, here's the setting that I'm running. Now you guys go build a character however you want with no real guidance or examples. Like, yes, I've told you about the world, but like, just go build your character. I have found, and I'm not really like angry about this, but I just have noticed in my experience that you can tell your players all you want about the setting, but then they'll sort of just like do their own thing and maybe make something and you're like, yeah, I guess we can make that work for the setting, but it's going to take some finagling. Maybe if you presented them with some example characters, they could just pick one of those and run with it, or at least have a clearer sense of what they're trying, of what this setting is asking of them. Speaking of which, another quick note that I made that came up in this first section of Vermis was giving your setting a dramatic question. Now, you might have heard this presented for like encounters, presenting a dramatic question for encounter. Will the players survive the orc ambush? How will the players defeat the dragon? Like that sort of a thing. And a dramatic question that is presented right at the start of this book is, which flesh is your flesh? Because then it just says, in this world, there are two types of flesh. There is the good and the evil. And it's basically like life and undeath. I'm like, a dramatic question is very cool, very interesting. So I kind of tried to jot down a few for my own setting of at least the urchin, and some of like ones that I was thinking of. What will you leave behind? Because if you know anything about my setting of the urchin, it's that like the gods abandoned it and its people, and so the people of this world were left behind. So the question I might pose to players is, over the course of this story, what are you going to leave behind? What might you abandon, or what might you have to give up? That could be an interesting question. Another big, and this one I might like even more, but I don't know if players would like it as much as I, as the GM, would like it, is whose truth do you accept? Because in my setting, there's Vecna, who's the mortal prophet. He's sort of positioned as like the one true god, but then there's also the Ark, that was like the arcane repopulation craft. It was the thing that the gods stole or left with and abandoned people. And it's like, do you believe what those, like Vecna preaches them to be the betrayer gods, the false apostles or whatever. But maybe we were left here for a reason. Do we believe what they say? Do you believe what the demons of this world have to say to you? What about all the cults? What about I really just tried to build the setting in such a way where everyone believes something a little bit different, and some beliefs kind of align and others contradict each other. And I thought that was a very interesting question. Whose truth do you accept, and whose truth are you willing? Maybe this is even a better way to phrase it. Whose truth will you die for? That could be kind of cool. And then one other one was like, what is your soul worth? Because I said a little while ago, like, oh yeah, maybe there's like the gods use phylacteries and there's souls literally being pumped through the world to power things, ancient machines and magics and things like that. And so are you willing to give your soul up to the god that you worship? Are you willing to sell it to a demon? Is it worth enough to you that you would keep it for yourself and you won't give it to anybody, and you'll kind of suffer for that because you won't be able to access a lot of powerful magics and things like that? Like, what is your soul worth to you? A cool question. I don't think it's the most dramatic one, and I don't even know if any of those ones I've written down on this list really like nail it yet, but the idea of a dramatic setting question, very, very cool. So I'll keep reading Vermis 1 and bring new ideas to you next week, I'm sure. All right, final hobby update. We've reached the painting practice corner. So before I show off my minis, I did want to show off kind of the painter that I'm trying to replicate. His name is John Blanche, and he is like the OG concept artist for Warhammer 40K. Like, actually, I think that's him. The face looks maybe, it's hard to tell. Some people have gotten really good at doing the Blanche style, but he like concepted the Primarchs. He concepted like that's Jakatai Khan, Primarch of the White Scars. This is Angron, Primarch of the World Eaters. There's Sanguinius, Primarch of low quality picture. Sorry about that. Of the Blood Angels. He also had like some really cool. Where's like a Space Marine one I could show off? Of course I can't find one, but you can see in these pictures that he uses, it's called a Zorn palette, which is just like reds, yellows, browns, blacks, and whites, I think is kind of the bulk of the palette. And he has so much texture and deep washes and splattering of white and really intense highlights of white, and then like one splash of color into the work. Like this one is yellow, you can see that. This one over here, clearly the splash of color. Wow, so many low quality images to try and show off for his work. But you can see, like, going back to this lady, it's red, that shoulder pad and the shin guards of bright red. I love this style. It's really messy and gross, and that's what I wanted to try and replicate and really develop in my own style. So the first guy that I painted is this like swampy knight. This is from Bastarium, a print from Bastarium. And I am really happy with how this guy came out, especially that checkered pattern on his shield and like those streaks of white that I added up there to give it sort of a tattered look. I think looks so, so cool. The armor, I didn't use metallic. I'm trying to actually push myself and not use metallic paint. So it was just a base coat of black and then like some gray highlights and washes and then hitting the edges with an off white, kind of just like a really light gray. And I really, really love it so much. The skin is like this pale, gross kind of undead flesh. And I painted this guy up pretty dang fast. I'll actually show you an example of, so this was the first one I did, and I was really loose with it, and it went really, really well. But then I tried another one, and I stopped halfway through because I was really unhappy with it. But I think I just got too focused on the details. Like I was trying to put way too much. Let's see how close I can get that. Can you see all those little highlight marks that I tried to put on this cloak? And the armor was just too many layers and specific spot highlight. I don't know. It wasn't working for me. And also I got away from the Zorn palette. I didn't really know about the Zorn palette. I used these like purples and things. It just wasn't working. So then I tried one more time, a different guy. This is a print from Knucklebones Minis. This is just like a fun traveling merchant guy. And I think that he is even better than the knight in a lot of ways. Like I think I did a great job of getting those like spot highlights. Let me see if I can get a little more light on this guy for you. Is that, maybe that's a little better. I'll bring that light back down at the end here so it's not washing out. But see, like the book has lots of cool little highlights on it with that or pinkish red color. His face, I think, looks really cool with his eye. On his back, he has all these cool scrolls that I hit with lots of white. And his yellow cloak and hood, I think, is that good pop of color on there. And his arm, especially, like, let me see. Can you see? One thing I did that maybe you can see a little bit of that is when it was almost done, when I was about to do my final highlights, I took a brush, just kind of like a messed up brush. This is a bad example of one, but I dipped it in my wash and then I just did that. And I splashed, kind of splattered, whatever, I don't know the word for it, splattered that wash on him. And that's how you get these little like dots and little, you can almost see it. There you go, on his arm, little splatterings of brown, which look like freckles or mud or whatever. And then I hit him with the white highlight and it looked really, really good. I feel like this is, of the two attempts here, well, three, but I don't even count that night guy. Of these two characters, I feel like he is the best Blanche style, but I like this guy more, just especially that checkered shield is just so cool. But what I don't like about this guy is everything sort of got a little too washed out. Like the colors aren't vibrant enough. The pink and the yellow, and it just blends in with the brown and the cream too much. And I don't know exactly why that is. Maybe it was just the specific yellow and pinkish red paint I was using. Maybe I'll try something different. I'm actually thinking I might try contrast paints for my like base coat and then build up from there with some washes and things, because I did have this rat guy that I painted a while ago, over like a year and a half ago. And he was mostly contrast with that, with the browns and the yellows and the red kind of scarf over his head. And it really pops. And I want to try and get back to being able to do it like this. So I'll try the contrast again and see if that works better. But overall, I'm really happy. I'm really happy with how they came out. It was like riding a bike. Like the painting kind of came back to me very quickly. Obviously, there's always room for improvement. and it's 2 minis down of my goal of 100 for the year. And having not really painted a single mini all of last year and being really like nervous to get back into painting, I'm just honestly like a little proud of myself. Like, hey, I like committed to this. I sat down and I didn't know if I was going to be very good at this or if it was going to be frustrating. Like, I did mess up a mini. Like, this guy didn't look good, but 2 looked really good. And I learned a lot from messing up with that guy. And so now I look forward to doing the next ones. I think they'll just keep getting better and better and better. So those are my hobby updates. There we go. Port of Peril, Vermis, workshop cleanup, and painting practice. We're getting there. 2 of 100 minis down. 98 left to go. What do you say we move on to section 2 here of our hobby sermon? The main segment, my kit-bashed Forbidden Psalms Warband. How do I want to do this? Well, I guess I kind of need to give you a little bit of context for Forbidden Psalms first, and then once you know the game, I can sort of explain the steps I took of how I came up with the idea of this warband and then built it out, right? So Forbidden Psalms is a skirmish war game, and a skirmish war game means you have like in Forbidden Psalms you have anywhere from 4 to 5 miniatures that you build and paint, and you send them on these little very deadly missions. The campaign the book presents is you're like working for this wizard and you're going out to try and find something for him, and he keeps sending you to these places to search ruins or kill a monster or whatever. It's very, very cool. So in the rule book, it has steps for building your warband, and you get to assign out ability scores, kind of like in D&D. You get to buy equipment for your characters, and then you roll up flaws and feats. Yeah, every character has a flaw and a feat, and it's all tracked on a character sheet. It's very, very compact and small and tight. It's cool. So what I did when I sat down to build this warband is I had no pre-existing idea of like exactly what I wanted it to be. I didn't have like lore in mind. I didn't have specific minis in mind. I would say the only thing that I was sort of thinking was something with knights would be cool. I didn't know if that meant like an order of knights and the whole warband would be knights, or if there would just be like one leader knight. I didn't really know, but I just wanted there to be a knight. So how I went about building my warband, the first thing I did is I printed out a sheet and I just wrote at the top the Forbidden Psalms warband, and I wrote like Model 1, Model 2, Model 3, Model 4, Model 5. And then what I did, the very first thing after that was I rolled flaw and feat first. And I did it just down the line. I didn't pick out like Model 1 is going to be my knight character. Model 2 is going to be my ranged fighter. I didn't even think about that. I just rolled flaws and feats. And then those are what started to give me guidance on like, well, what ability scores would this character have? For example, the very first model I rolled, the flaw was vacant mind. They can't collect items. They can't pick anything up on the battlefield. And the second, or the feat I rolled, was shield bash, +2 to damage while holding a shield. So then as I was like rummaging through my bits box and looking for a model that would make sense for this, I came up with this guy. Now, this character wasn't always holding this big shield. They actually were holding like kind of a reliquary, like this big pole with a shrine at the top of it. But then I had that shield, you probably recognize it. It's from one of these dudes, right? One of the guys that I painted up. So I just, well, let's see if I can get that to focus. There you go. So I just snipped off the shrine that he was holding and put that shield on the front of him. And now I have a model that perfectly visualizes what flaws and feats he has. This person is holding a giant tower shield, so obviously they're able to like shield smash with it, and they don't really have any way to hold other things. Like, this is a giant two-handed shield, so that's why their flaw makes sense of vacant mind, can't pick anything else up. But then I kept going down the line before I get too into these specific minis. The next one I rolled had the flaw of newbie. They have no flaw and no feat. So I just, okay, sweet. This basically be like a throwaway character. There's nothing very interesting about them, so I'll have to come up with some way to make that work. The next one I rolled was a flaw of brittle bones. They take +1 to damage when they're hit, and their feat is a scavenger. They make 2 treasure rolls whenever searching and taking or whenever searching for treasure in the scenario, and they take both roles. Okay, in my head, immediately was like, that's a scout character of some kind. Model 4 had a flaw of scared of heights, so they can't climb or jump, and their feat was alchemist. They start each scenario with a potion, and that was the one where I'm like, this is going to be my leader. This is going to be the head character of some kind. This will be the knight, and I didn't really know exactly. I still wasn't sure what his like lore was going to be or what sort of knight he was, but the scared of heights really stood out to me of like, ooh, an old aging knight who's like afraid of death, scared of heights, maybe something like that. And that ended up being the real launching point. And then the final model I rolled up was a flaw of realist to this, so they can't use omens. Basically, they can't use spells. And then feat was improvised fighter. As an action, they can make a one-handed makeshift weapon mid-scenario. So they don't need to buy or go into the scenario with equipment. They can find something. And that was another sort of throwaway character. Like, okay, they can't use spells, and they're just going to be a character who runs out and picks something up in the middle of the fight. It'll just be a dude who, if he dies, whatever, I don't care. So at that point, I had my flaws and my feats rolled up. I had rough ideas of sort of the archetype, right? The shield character, the knight, the scout who's running out and picking things up, like able to search the ruins really well. Now I needed to start finding models. That was the next thing I did. So I started just rummaging through my bits box, through all my random 3D prints and old bodies, and started just pulling out minis that I thought made sense, that could work. And I won't show you, I don't have like the pile of all the minis that I had built up, but at one point I had like 10 miniatures in front of me, all of which could have worked for a lot of these characters. And then it was just a process of going model by model and really giving them a lot of thought of, okay, what is this character? What is their lore? And which mini here, A, gets me excited to kit bash it and paint it, and B, like fits this story that I'm telling here. And then I would, at the end, I just tossed all the ones that I wasn't going to use back in the bits box. So now I'll go character by character and tell you the lore and show some of the cool kit bashing I did for this warband. So we're going to go down and we're going to do the model number 4 that I rolled up, which ended up being my knight, the leader of this warband. Now, I don't have any names for these guys yet. So if for the 3 people that end up watching this, if you have an idea for names for any of these characters, put them in the comments or something. But this is my aging elderly knight who I decided he is on a quest. He is desperate to find immortality. He does not want his great feats and heroics to ever be forgotten, nor does he want to ever have to stop being heroic, perceived as heroic, and being this grand, larger-than-life figure. So on his quest for immortality, he became easy prey for a minion of Tzeentch. Now, Tzeentch is a god from the Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Age of Sigmar setting, who is known as like the changer of ways, master of fate. He's kind of a god of illusions and secrets and mutations and all that sort of a thing. And so this is like a lesser demon. This is a Knucklebones print that this is really, really cool. And this will, I guess I'll explain it right here. So this model, this demon guy, isn't actually a model in my Forbidden Psalms warband. He doesn't have stats. He doesn't do anything. But when I'm playing the game, he is always going to be moving right next to my knight character because he is this lesser demon who has been whispering secrets into the ear of this knight to guide him on this quest for immortality. Really, all he's doing is turning this knight into a pawn for Tzeentch and tricking him into serving missions for his god. But the knight is so old and his mind is sort of broken that he now believes that this is like the voice of his god that is leading him to the Holy Grail or something. And so this is what explains how he is a spellcaster, because in Forbidden Psalms, no character has like, you can't roll a feat to become a spellcaster. I don't think. You can get like, this guy rolled the alchemist feat, so he starts each scenario with a potion, which is where I started to have this idea of, yeah, maybe some sort of, there's got to be magic involved here. He's looking for some sort of magical relic. Well, you can pay, I think like 5 gold or something, to hire on a caster character, someone who can roll up on a random table of spell scrolls and use them in the game. So this knight is that additional buy-on. So it's weird where it's like, he's the leader of my warband, but he's technically like a bonus character that I bought. So the reason he has spellcasting abilities is because he has these like demon of Tzeentch whispering in his ear. And so some of the things I kit bashed for him was I put like a giant feather on the top of his helmet. He's obviously got like that raven bird on his shoulder, kind of another little messenger of Tzeentch. Or even like, oh yeah, that is meant to be like what the demon is perceived as by everybody else. Anyone who looks at the knight sees this bird on his shoulder, but the knight, well, he can't see it either, but like if you were like had true sight, or maybe you were like a priest or a cleric or something, you would see this demon kind of like peering over his shoulder. So that was my thought there. And then this model had a big shield on his back when he was printed, but the character I gave him, he's equipped with a two-handed sword and medium armor and a helm. So if you have two pieces of armor, you can't have a third. So he couldn't have a shield. So I ended up snipping it off and replacing it with these giant tomes, these huge spell books that he has on his back that he's filling with all of the secrets and lore and spells that he's learning from his Tzeentchian master. So that's the leader. Really happy with how he came out. I think he's awesome. And having a mini following him on the battlefield that doesn't technically do anything will be very cool and very fun, I think. The next character that I think is fun is one of the throwaways. This is the ended up being what I'm calling the Doomed Squire. This is the guy who can't use omens, and he can use a makeshift weapon mid-scenario. So in the lore of this warband, this is the knight's loyal squire. He has served him for years, long before he lost his mind and began to age and has gone on this insane quest for immortality. He has always been by his side. So even now, as his master is losing his mind, he serves him dutifully. And what I imagine he does, like the mini was part of a kit of cannoneers. So that's like the big cleaning thing he would use to like put the cannonball at the end, like stuff it down with all the gunpowder. But he has a little bucket here too. I thought, oh, what if it's like his role is he constantly cleaning and blessing the knight with oils, sacred oils that he's like putting all over his armor and keeping it polished and reflective like a mirror. So the only thing I really did to him for a kit bash was I added this little like scroll kind of ribbon thing. And that's probably something that maybe the demon had the knight put onto this guy. Something that sort of like bound him to the knight, literally like bound his soul to him. I just thought that would be kind of cool. But the realist aspect that he can't use omens, what I think that is going to be is this is the only guy in the warband who can see the demon for what it truly is. I don't know why, I don't have an answer for that quite yet, but he knows that his master is succumbing to a demon of Tzeentch. He knows that his master's lost his mind, but he is so loyal, and maybe also he's been tricked into like pledging himself with the Tzeentchian seal of some kind, that he serves his master anyways. And so in the battle, he can see this demon running around with his master, but he's going to serve him anyways, and he'll run around and do his best to gather up some treasure or something for his knight master, or just keep his armor polished and clean, so that when he inevitably meets his fate and dies, he'll at least die in a regal noble suit of armor that was kept clean by his loyal squire. So that was another guy. Oh, and all he's armed with is... Actually, he's armed with nothing. I bought him no equipment because he wouldn't have any armor. He's just a squire, and he doesn't need a weapon because of his improvised fighter feat. He can just find a one-handed weapon at some point in the battle. Let's go back to the Shield Guardian. I already showed this mini off, but this was a Bastarium print, and what really immediately made me like jump onto it and kind of lean into the Tzeentch theme is the head has this like beakish helmet look to it, and this giant plume of feathers coming out the back of it. That's a better angle, you can sort of see there. So I already was like, oh, yep, we're like leaning into this bird theme. So one thing I did, besides adding onto the shield, was I snipped off these are just like horns from like a cool like demon helm, or it's like a tiefling kind of character. So there were these forehead horns that I cut off and put onto his elbows because I thought they look like talons. Like he looks like he's got the talons of some like bird of prey coming off of his shoulders or his elbows, and that he could use those like weapons. When he's shield bashing, he can be throwing elbows out around it and, you know, jabbing those into characters like daggers, or hooking into prey and pulling it close. And then the shield itself, I thought isn't just going to be a wooden metal shield, but what if it's actually the cover of some ancient, lost, destroyed spell tome of a greater demon of Tzeentch? There are no pages, like it's been lost to time. Only the cover survived, and maybe it's even made of like Tzeentchian demon's flesh. It does kind of look like skin if you get close to it. So that's my idea for this character. He's carrying around a giant spell book cover that he's using as a shield. And to make him even more Tzeentchian, I thought, what if, because you can't see a face, right? Like the helmet, you can't see through it. You can't see any of the body. And the body itself is really awkward and weird, like gangly long arms, this really squatted body, very, very awkward looking. So I thought maybe this is like an animated suit of armor. Maybe the knight defeated one of his enemies in combat, and this Tzeentchian demon sealed their soul inside this armor and damned them to an eternity of carrying this book cover around to act as a shield guardian or a sentinel of some kind for the knight. So that's this guy, and he's equipped with a tower shield, medium armor, and just a sword. Which technically the sword I'm having be his. Wait, actually, now I'm thinking about it. Can he use a sword? I have to go back and double check if a tower shield is two-handed. It might not be, and I might have just modeled it to be two-handed. If it is two-handed, then I'll just get the 3 gold back for the sword. If it isn't two-handed, if it's one-handed, then the sword is just going to be these talons on his elbows. That'll be what he actually uses as his sword. I realized I forgot to tell you what I equipped the knight with, so we'll jump back to him real quick. The immortal knight has the Ulbert sword, which has some special ability. I can't remember what it is, and I don't have the rulebook in front of me. I think it like crits on a better number or something like that. And then he has medium armor, and he's a spellcaster, so he gets to roll 2 random scrolls at the start of every battle. Really wish I could remember what the sword did. Maybe I'll tell you in the future, because I'll show these guys off once they're painted again. Okay, 2 models left in my warband to show off. This is going to be, we'll do this guy. So this is the Censar Carrier, the Censar Bearer. So this is a Bestarium print. I basically did nothing to it except added that little bird skull to the back of it, kind of like the clasp or the lock that seals the 2 halves of this giant Censar together. But this guy, the lore for him, because he was one of the other throwaway characters. So the first one I already showed was the Doomed Squire. This was the one who's a newbie. So he has no flaw and no feat. So there's literally nothing good or cool about him. So I just thought it would be fun if this knight always had maybe like some sort of, I don't know if it's like a defeated, like the squire. Oh, maybe it's the squire of this knight, right? Maybe when he defeated this knight and their soul was sealed within the armor, the squire was also bound to them by the demon, and they carry around this censar that just plumes endlessly with this kind of insanity-inducing incense that is really like being burned in honor of Tzeentch. But maybe the knight believes that so long as he stands within the smoke of this censar, death will have a hard time finding him, or I don't know, something like that. In reality, my thought is like whatever's being produced by the censar is just weakening the knight's mind even further and making him an even easier piece of prey for Tzeentch to sink his talons into. But that's not what the knight believes. So what I equipped him with was light armor and flails, or he has a flail. And my idea for the flail is he literally just swings around. There's like smaller censars hanging off the bigger one. So as he's carrying this thing around, he's whipping it around to like spread the smoke. And those smaller flails or smaller censars can crack skulls and things like that. And that's it. Like there's really no other lore to him. Just carrying some Tzeentchian incense and swinging it around, killing anybody. And if he dies in battle, the knight just, takes somebody else. He conscripts somebody and tells him, yep, you are carrying the censar around. That is your duty to me. And so he can always easily replace this guy. And last guy is really cool, and it's sort of a breakaway from the theme. This was the scout character. So this was the one that was brittle boned. So there's +1 to damage against him when he's hit, and he's a scavenger. He can make 2 treasure rolls when searching and take both. So this is who I did. So this is a Knucklebone Minis print again. It's the 1490 Doom Scout character, so that worked perfectly. So you can see like the gray body is the bulk of the mini. He has this like weird breathing apparatus thing on his back that goes up into his face, which leaned into the like the brittle bones flaw, I was starting to think maybe it's not even like brittle bones. Maybe he's really sick. Maybe there's just some sort of plague that he's contracted. And when I thought that, immediately my brain's like, Nurgle. Like if we've got Tzeentch, then we've also got Nurgle and Khorne and all the other Chaos Gods. But what if, for the lore of this guy, he was some lesser knight who contracted a Nurgle plague, and it's already beginning to mutate him. You can see like the kit bashing I did is I added like this like weird insect third arm coming out from underneath his sword arm, kind of up under his chest, because then he has his normal arm on this side. Then he has like this weird insect appendage kind of bursting up out of his shoulder. The breathing apparatus that's part of the original mini really already leans into this idea of someone who's plague-stricken and can't breathe and is puking up like bile and stuff. And then you can't really see it, but I green stuffed like a giant insect eye over one of his eyes. So he has a normal eye and then a big bulbousy insect eye. And so you might be thinking, what does a plague Nurgle guy have to do with Tzeentch at all? Well, the lore has, how I understand it, the Chaos Gods are always warring with each other and trying to take each other's worshippers. So I thought maybe this guy is on the path to worshiping Nurgle. He's contracted this plague, but it's early enough into it that he doesn't want to die. He thinks he has the Black Plague, or he thinks he's been cursed. He's like, I need to get rid of this. And he hears rumors of this knight on a quest for immortality. And so he pledges himself to serve this knight, believing that if he helps him find whatever it is he's searching for, the Fountain of Youth or the Holy Grail or whatever, that the knight will reward him by cleansing him of his plague. What's really going on, though, is that this Tzeentchian demon is trying to take him away from Nurgle worship and trick him into serving and worshiping Tzeentch. And so, as this warband goes on their campaign and over the course of their narrative, he would slowly begin to lose his Nurgliness and develop more Tzeentchian mutations, all the while not even realizing that his soul is being fought over by two different Chaos Gods. But he is just so desperate to save himself that he's not even really stopping to ask questions. And that is my first ever kit-bashed Forbidden Psalms warband. All of them serving an aging, crazed knight desperate to find immortality, and he is doing so unknowingly in the name of Tzeentch, which also just makes perfect sense for, how do I get those to focus on the two minis? There we go. Like, that just makes perfect sense for Tzeentch. He is the changer of ways, the master of fate, the great deceiver and the liar. So, of course, his warband and the people who work for him wouldn't even know that's what they're doing for a lot of the time. So, really happy with how those kit bashes all came out. Some of them are really simple, right? Like, this guy just had the ribbon thrown onto him. That's all I did to kit bash him. And this guy, I actually didn't even do anything to him. Didn't kit bash a single thing. I just thought the mini was so cool. So it doesn't always have to be crazy kit bashes. Even just one little extra bit can help tell a cool narrative story. And I don't know if I'll even ever play Forbidden Psalms with them, but that wasn't my goal for the year. My goal was just to make cool minis and use the minis themselves as a world-building exercise to tell a cool story. Even if they never see the table for a game of Forbidden Psalms, I've had so much fun coming up with this story. And I hope that it's inspired you as well. Now, let's move on to our third and final segment. Oh, symbol of Vecna on Church of Doom right here, right? Third, final segment of our sermon is still in the Tzeentchian theme here. We're going to do 1d12 Tzeentch-themed magic items. And real quick, I'm going to just show you some cool art. Can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah, there we go. So this is more John Blanche art. This is Tzeentchian concept art. And also, this is a good opportunity. Hey, I'll selflessly plug my Patreon. If you go check out the Patreon, it's $3 a month. And the blog post that I put a blog post up every Sunday before I do this sermon. And it has like pictures you can go back and reference. It has all the lists and my notes that I kind of go through so you can read through it and pull all that for inspiration. Just have easy access to it. And these random tables that I share at the end of my sermon, this is a 1d12 list. I'll probably share like 6 or so of my favorite ideas of this list. If you want the full 1d12, you can go get that on the Patreon. Give your tithing to the Church of Doom, right? But let's talk about what the Lord of Change might bless your character with. Or this could be a cool item you introduce in your Forbidden Psalms game. It could be something you give your D&D characters. It doesn't have to be Tzeentch-themed. Really, as I was brainstorming these items, the theme is how would I explain it? Like, so Tzeentch is the Lord of Change, the Master of Fate, and it's sort of like the schemer. Like there's always some weird angle to whatever he's doing, and it might seem like totally crazy and unrelated, but there is logic behind the madness. So a lot of these items are meant to be like, hey, it gives you this, ooh, but it also, I guess some of them are like kind of cursed items, but it's like, it gives you this cool thing, but there's also this, or hey, if you use this item, it does something cool, but then it also has this unintended consequence, like the fate sort of changes for you in this weird way. So let me share some of my favorites. I'll give you some examples here. First one, I'll just read the very first one on the list. Fate Stopper. The Lord of Change has blessed you with a longsword that crits on 20s and 9s, because 9 is Tzeentch's favored number, but it becomes immovable for 1d12 hours on a nat 1. So this thing has double the odds of critting in combat, but if you ever roll a nat 1, it is frozen in place. It essentially becomes an immovable rod, and you cannot pick it back up. You cannot use it in any way, except I guess to like use it to climb up or something for potentially, as little as 1 hour up to 12 hours. And if you're down in a dungeon or you're being chased by some crazy powerful enemy, can you afford to even wait 1 hour, or do you have to abandon this sword? And so Fate Stopper being, like this thing can't be moved. Thought that was kind of a cool, fun name for it. And just a really simple magic item. What's another one this one's cool. This is number 2 on the list. Warfront, or the Warfront's Crown. This is a helm that can change one feature of the battlefield, but requires a save to avoid going insane and getting randomly deployed on the battlefield by the GM or your opponent. So a lot of these items, I tried to like look at my minis and pull out like a piece of equipment on them, or think like, what would a knight have and how could I make that a cool magic item? So this is his weird feathered helm. So this item, let's talk in the context of D&D, right? The GM puts out the map. He's got them, your minis are sort of placed where you guys are arriving into the scene, and you get to use this one-use item at the start of the battlefield to say, ooh, I actually want to swap that piece of terrain with this piece of terrain. Or maybe your GM might even allow you to like introduce a piece of terrain, right? I want to make a wall in this section here to kind of shield us from some of those ranged attacks. Whatever it is, you can kind of come up with it, right? Fate smiles upon you. Tzeentch weaves and changes your fate so that the battlefield is what you want it to be. But if you fail your int save after using this item, the GM then gets to say, cool, that piece of terrain is there, but as fate is rewriting itself and reality is kind of unraveling and coming back together, you are suddenly not where you thought you were a moment ago. You are on the other side of the battlefield all alone, staring up at the enemy you're about to fight. Or, you conjured a tower and you are suddenly at the top of the tower. You're like, oh shit. Like I cannot be by myself up here. This is really, really bad. Like I'm going to get picked off by the flying enemies, or now I have to get all the way down to rejoin the fight. It could be whatever, but just a fun sort of, it really is just like what's the saying? Like a trick of, not a trick of fate. I don't know. I can't remember the saying, but it's just like a thing that can be really cool, really useful, but also really fuck you over if you fail that in save. So that was a cool one I liked as well. Let's see. I'm going to go further down the list here. Ooh, Yestermorrow's Tabard. This is a luck-woven tabard that swaps its wearer with another version of themselves who is also wearing that tabard in a different timeline the moment before their death. So, again, this is just, I looked at him and I saw, oh, he's wearing a cool big tabard. What is a cool effect for that item? So if you are wearing this and you are reduced to 0 HP, probably wouldn't be reduced to 0 HP. You fail your final death save. Or if you're playing Daggerheart and you need to make a death move, right? Or whatever game you're playing, the moment your character would die, you don't die. Instead, a different version, this is unfortunately very Rick and Morty-esque, very cringe, but like that character gets brought into your reality, your timeline, and your memories and your mind kind of take over their body. And there's probably some cool opportunity there for like merging of minds, and like you now have memories or thoughts that aren't yours originally. They're from a different you in a different world, who's now like the you are isn't even really you anymore. It's somebody else, but you're just inhabiting the body. It's very cool Tzeentchian fate time shenanigans there. But the body comes in, you essentially get a quick resurrect or a get out of death free card, and then the tabard is destroyed and it's lost for all time. That was a really cool one. And the way I worded it was, it swaps its wearer with another version of themselves who is also wearing the tabard in a different timeline. So if you think about it, what that means is there are who knows how many versions of this tabard out across the multiverse with characters who theoretically could die, and your character gets swapped and pulled out of this timeline and goes to become them. Now, I would never do that in a campaign because that would just suck as a character. It's like you're not even like in combat. It's just like, oh, random dice roll, nat 1. Uh-oh, like your body is now pulled out of existence to go suffer the curse of this item. Like that's just not fun. But knowing that it's in the lore and that theoretically it could happen is fun enough and dramatic enough, I think, for a cool cursed item. Let's do like at least 3 more. Give you a D6. Give you half of this D12 list. Let's do Tzeentch's Ledger. Yeah, so this one I thought could work for like the giant spell book on his back. So Tzeentch's Ledger is a blood-soaked spell book that contains a lesser demon of Tzeentch, which you can release and command mentally, but if you are ever reduced to 0 HP while the demon is released, they are freed and your soul becomes trapped within the spellbook and is the newest demon host. So kind of similar to the Tavern and where there's like these effects on death, like things trigger when you get to 0 HP or you die. But in this case, it's a pretty powerful item. Like you can literally summon a lesser demon, or it could be a greater demon. It could be whatever you want, or your GM allows it to be. But I imagine this knight kind of unclasps this massive book. He throws it out in front of him, recites the Tzeentchian prayer, and up from the pages warps this feathered bird demon that then he can command. And in his mind, I wonder what he would see. Maybe in his mind, it's an angel. He's summoning an angel, but this feathered demon is squawking and tearing souls out of other mortal bodies. Very powerful item, but it's not if you die while the book is open, you are swapped with this creature. It's if you are reduced to 0 HP. Way deadlier, way scarier, way riskier, which I think it has to be if this item allows you to just basically whenever you want, hey, here's a demon, go fight this thing for me. If you ever hit 0 HP, that demon is freed, which means who knows what it's going to do, who knows what horrible fate it's going to inflict upon your loved ones because you were the one who kept it imprisoned in this book for so long. But then you become the next demon trapped in the book. Again, like a twist of fate. That's the saying, a twist of fate. Really, really liked that one. Let's do 2 more. Ooh, the Mind-Locked Talisman. This is a spiteful charm that can trap you and a single opponent in an illusionary demiplane for a one-on-one duel. And both you and the opponent can only escape the demiplane with a successful int check, or if one of you is like slain, basically like a victor emerges. So my thought was the knight has some, I don't know, maybe it's like the talisman on his chest there, that like kind of little shield crest thing or whatever. But he sees his enemy, points his sword, recites this prayer, and then fate warps around them. It's the Doctor Strange mirror dimension, I don't know, whatever it is, but you are trapped in this confined space. I don't know, and I might even have it be Super Smash Bros. Style, like there's no terrain, like everything is just flattened out Battlefield style, and it is a one-on-one fight, and you can only get out of here with an int check, and I would make it a very hard int check, like DC 20 or higher, but I would probably put it even higher. And what's cool about this is, from a player's perspective, it's meant to be like, oh yeah, like you are fucked, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, the bandit steals from you in the middle of the night, trap them in this demiplane, they can't escape, kill them, or get your stuff back or whatever. But it has the potential of a player trapping themselves in a demiplane with a creature that is actually way too deadly to be fighting, right? They think this is very Tzeentchian, twist of fate, kind of, you think it's one thing, but it's actually another thing. The player seals themselves in this demiplane with the bandit, only to then realize, uh-oh, it's an Oni. This thing shape changes and they're like, shit, I am trapped in this tiny space with this thing that is absolutely going to kill me. And I can only get out of here if I'm smart enough to see through this illusion. It's not like I can just turn this thing off whenever I want. I have trapped myself in here with it. It's like the Rorschach thing from Watchmen, right? Like I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me. And now how the hell do you get out of here? I thought that would be really, really cool, and like just make for some dramatic moments of, are you sure you want to be in a fight with this thing? Like, do you really think you can win? And because it's once you do it, you're committed. And then who knows what happens from there. And just this character like running around trying, as they're like going insane, trying to escape this prison that they've put themselves in. Thought that was really, really cool. All right, one last item from this D12 list. And again, the full D12 list is on the Patreon. Let's do... this one was cool. Aeon's Talons. So this is a pair of feathered boots that can return you to where you were standing at the start of your turn. That's basically maybe like a bonus action, right? So you use your movement. This is very in the context of 5e D&D, but you move across the battlefield. You use your action to attack, and then as a bonus action for free, you go back to where you were standing at the start of the turn. Very useful item. Very, very cool. Here's the little twist, the extra little thing that can maybe make them a cursed item. If you ever dash in these boots, it risks forcing you back to the spot you were at. Risks forcing you back to where you were at the beginning of the turn at the end of the turn. And that's just passive. It always is this risk. So if you are ever in a certain area where you have to dash, right? You are trying to flee out of a collapsing dungeon, or you have to dash to get to someone to save them, right? You need to get to an ally to give them a bonus or a potion of healing or whatever. These boots might curse you, and you run, you're sprinting, and at the end of that dash, it triggers this save. Maybe it's an int save, probably would be an int save of some kind, being Tzeentch-themed. And if you fail that int save, you are forced back to where you were at the start of the turn, and you are unable to do the thing that you were dashing to in the first place. Or in my head, the visual I'm seeing is you're running down this collapsing tunnel, and you dash, or you push yourself to run as fast as you can, only to then realize, like, how did I, what? No, I was just there. And then you get crushed under this tunnel that is suddenly on top of you rather than getting further and further behind you. Thought that was a cool one. And those are 6 Tzeentchian-themed magic items to introduce into your campaign, your next game of Forbidden Psalms. Maybe you're playing a cool narrative war game of Warhammer 40k and you find a way to introduce one of these into a game just for the hell of it. I have no idea. Do what you want with it. Go build some cool worlds. And that is it for me. That is the end of our sermon. We did our hobby updates, we did our main segment, and we did our random table. I hope that you guys got something cool out of this. I really appreciate you being here with me today. Thank you for attending. And we say these things in your unholy names. Amen.